Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the press conference on the performance of the Philippine economy for the first quarter of 2019. I am Noli Pagkatipunan of the Philippine Statistics Authority and I will be your moderator for this conference. Let me now introduce to you the officials of the Philippine Statistics Authority and the National Economic and Development Authority. We have Assistant Secretary Josie Perez, and Socioeconomic Planning Secretary Ernesto M. Pernia. Joining them are Undersecretary Rosemary G. Edelion of NEDA and OIC Deputy National Statistician Rosalito P. Bautista of PSA. To start our press conference, please welcome ASEC Josie P. Perez, Officer in charge of the PSA, for the presentation of the performance of the Philippine economy for first quarter of 2019.
Good morning, everyone. The Philippine Statistics Authority is pleased to report the performance of the Philippine economy for the first quarter of 2019. 2019, sorry. For the first quarter of 2019. The gross domestic product grew by 5.6%. In the first quarter of 2019 from the 6.5% in the same period of the previous year. Net primary income, or NPI, from the rest of the world grew by 1.9% and gross national income grew by 4.9%. Among the major economic industries, services recorded the fastest growth of 7.0%, while industry expanded by 4.4% and agriculture grew by 0.8%. With the country's projected population reaching 107.4 million in the first quarter of 2019, per capita GDP posted a growth of 3.9%. This was 4.9% in the same quarter of the previous year. Meanwhile, per capita GNI and per capita household final consumption expenditure grew by 3.3% and 4.6% respectively. Among the three major economic industries, services had the highest contribution to the GDP growth in the first quarter of 2019 with 4.0 percentage points. This was followed by industry with 1.5 percentage points and agriculture with 0.1 percentage points. On the demand side, intellectual property product posted the highest growth of 13.8%, followed by the next three components: import of goods 8.6%, government final consumption expenditure 7.4%, and imports of services 6.8%. Major contributors to the GDP growth from the expenditure side were household final consumption expenditure at 4.3 percentage points, durable equipment at 1.1 percentage points, and government final consumption expenditure at 0.8 percentage point. On the other hand, net exports pulled down the GDP growth by 2.6 percentage points. The Philippine Statistics Authority appreciates your presence in this first quarter 2019 National Accounts Press Conference. And we look forward to meeting you again on August 8, 2019 when we report the performance of the Philippines economy for the second quarter of 2019. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you very much, ASEC Perez. At this point, we shall hear the statement of NEDA Secretary Ernesto M. Pernia.
Our partners from the Philippine Statistics Authority, colleagues in government, friends from the media, Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As reported by the Philippine Statistics Authority, the Philippine economy grew by 5.6%, reversing what was what was achieved in the first quarter of last year, which was 6.5. So just reversing the digits, right? In the first quarter of 2019. This is the slowest growth rate recorded in 16 quarters since the first quarter of 2015's 5.1% growth. As we had forewarned repeatedly, the reenacted budget would sharply slow the pace of economic growth. I was tempted to say would wreak havoc on our economic growth. But don't use that. We estimate that we should have grown by as much as 6.6%. It's quite a difference, huh? In the first quarter, if we were operating under the 2019 fiscal program. Even just comparing the 2018 and 2019 performance of the government sector, we see that government final consumption expenditure weakened, growing by only 7.4% versus 13.6% in 2018. And public construction contracted by 8.6%. For instance, the Department of Interior and Local Government's construction of police stations and purchase of new equipment, and the Department of Education's repair and rehabilitation of school buildings were severely hampered because of the delayed budget. To reach the full year growth target of 6 to 7% for 2019, the economy will have to expand by an average of 6.1% over the next 3 quarters. This is still achievable, fortunately, I hope, given the current performance of the private sector, and if the government sector is able to jumpstart and speed up implementation of its new programs and projects. Okay. I want to just make a quick analogy. You know, basketball being the number one sport in the Philippines, if a team is not performing well in the first quarter because of a delayed arrival of water and drinks for the athletes, then they won't perform well. They will be lagging behind by a big margin versus the opponent. And in the case of our economy, the delay was not only a quarter but 4 months already. That's a third of the year. So, and therefore, for the basketball team or your basketball team to win, they would have to really catch up and work very hard over the next 3 quarters. So this is a good explanation especially for popular explanation, because as you know, basketball is the most favorite sport in this country. Okay, so on the supply side, let me now go to the supply side. Both industry and agricultural sectors posted slower growth. The agriculture sector's slower growth is attributed to the El Nino phenomenon, which is projected to continue until August this year. With this, the Department of Agriculture should extend its production support programs to adapt to a protracted El Nino occurrence. There is also a need for a more robust El Nino mitigation and adaptation plan to address water, food, and energy security, as well as health and public safety in a more sustained manner. The longer-term solution is to build the resiliency of the sector. which will require changes in production and processing patterns and practices of the agriculture sector. In the short term, a major structural change in the sector is the Rice Liberalization Act. The rice industry roadmap will need to be finalized, making sure that the impact of climate change is fully considered. The different agencies that will receive funding from the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund should already finalize its programs and work plans for immediate rollout with the release of the budget. Meanwhile, private construction also slowed down, which is expected given the business cycle of this sector. However, if we are able to quickly implement the reforms that reduce the cost of doing business, then the uptick in private construction may happen even sooner. Amendments to the Foreign Investment Act, the Public Service Act, the Retail Trade Act will also encourage investments in industry and services and boost private construction as there will be greater need for factories and office spaces. Fortunately, the foreign investments will also be encouraged by or with our country's international credit rating upgrade to BBB+, historically the highest thus far for the country. On the demand side, we note the acceleration in household spending at 6.3%. We expect this to remain robust with a more upbeat consumer sentiment over the quarters ahead and with the continued moderation in inflation. As we have already mentioned, the delay in the approval of the 2019 budget has weakened domestic demand. What is needed is for government to quickly implement and disburse the fiscal program as indicated in the 2019 GAA. To prevent any further delays, the Department of Budget and Management needs to issue the Budget Circular for General Appropriations Act as soon as possible. While we support the implementation of the cash-based budget system, the supervening circumstances such as the delayed budget and the election season warrants an urgent review of the cash-based budgeting rules. If the payment period and the budget validity are not extended, government agencies may decide to forego implementing new programs and projects that are expected to take longer than 7 months to complete, inclusive of the procurement process. Today, we are commencing the midterm update of the Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022. There is much to be done to counter external headwinds to reach our medium-term and long-term goals. Amid distractions, we call on our partners, especially the whole of government, to remain focused on our commitment to making growth inclusive and self-sustaining over the long run. We hope to have the continued support of everyone, including you, our friends in the media, in our effort to translate this growth into what we have been referring to as a matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay para sa lahat. Thank you very much and mabuhay tayong lahat despite this downbeat economic performance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Pernia. Before we proceed to the open forum, please remain seated as we distribute the press kits for your reference. Rest assured that we have enough copies for everyone. We now proceed to the open forum. We would like to remind everyone to please wait to be acknowledged before asking your question. Once acknowledged, please say your name and organization. We will also appreciate if you could limit your questions related to the performance of the Philippine economy. At this point, we are now open for your questions. Yes, ma'am. Mike, please.
Hi, Secretary Pernia. I'm Cecily of Bloomberg. Sir, given the slower economic growth in the first quarter, would you encourage the central bank to cut interest rate that it's doing today?
Well, that is up to the discretion of the central bank. But Ben Diokno texted me a bit earlier. What is the growth rate? I think it's because they want to already, already think about what to do to wrap up economic growth in the succeeding quarters. So I would not want to second guess them or yeah. Yes.
Sir, but you think the government needs help from the central bank, and that should come in the form of monetary easing?
Well, Ben Diokno, Central Bank Governor Ben Diokno has been with the government, has been with the executive for a long time. And in fact, his first statement when he was appointed governor was he is really a pro-growth. He's going to be a pro-growth central bank governor. Of course, addressing inflation as well, because the two go together very well. Anyway, lower inflation, better economic growth.
Thank you, Secretary. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Secretary. Miguel Flores of Nikkei News Review. Sir, how soon do you expect government spending to pick up pace, considering that we have an election bond which will last until the end of the second quarter? And
Yes, Comelec has not been helpful either because, we submitted a list of projects for exemption as early as February 18. But they responded to us on March 29, which was the start of the ban. So, these kinds of, inaction or delays on the part of other sectors of government are not going to be helpful. That's why we always say the whole of government, the whole of citizenry is needed for a better performance of the economy and poverty reduction. And for a matatag, maginawat na natin ang buhay. That has been our battle cry. So that is the thing.
sir, given that you think that public spending during this quarter will remain muted and will only probably gain pace in the second half of the year, or do you already expect some bounce back on the part of?
I'll ask Lisa Gross, she will share some of the reaction of the other sectors of government.
Yeah, actually, the executive is actually ready with its fiscal programs, and we have been ready with it since last year. We're just waiting for the release of the budget circular from the leading, of course, before that the approval of the GAA. But many of the government agencies are just waiting for this, and if need be, then as soon as that is released, then we are ready. Many actually have done pre-procurement, but I don't know if some of these pre-procurement were done back in December, like we did in at the NEDA. What is needed to happen now is to find out if the validity of those bids is extended by the suppliers, the winning bidders. Then if not, we will have to undergo re-bidding. But hopefully, because we have already started, the pre-procurement in terms of finalizing the terms of reference, the deal documents, etc. Hopefully that will be shortened a bit. But you're right that realistically, then we're looking at really the second half for really the government sector to perform in the big way. To actually start the new programs and projects. Previous programs and projects are still ongoing.
Thank you, Yusek Edelion.
You know, basketball game is considered the one with second quarter performance. Second half. Second half performance. Okay.
Yes, yes, sir.
Good morning, sir. Very of inquiry. So, sir, can we blame the lower house for driving the budget? And that we operated under reenacted budget.
Your question answered itself.
I'm blaming the lower house. Moving forward, sir, what can we do? And are you expecting a friendlier Congress, perhaps, so this won't happen again in the 18th Congress?
No, I think our statement is, strong enough but polite, and we hope our colleagues in the legislature will be sensitive to what has happened, because we had warned several times already about the problem, the risks of a delayed budget enactment, or rather than the enactment.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir. I just want to ask sir if you're still on track with the target of achieving higher middle income for 2019. Upper middle income for 2019. And second, sir, allow me to ask something or allow me to ask something about employment, because we look at employment in the last 10 years, and 2017 is quite strange because in 2017, the first year of the Duterte government, about 664,000 jobs were lost. First time in the last 10 years, perhaps. So what could be the reason? Probably PSA can answer the question. And the third question, sir. In 2020, we're eyeing about 7% GDP growth. Secretary Ben Diokno mentioned about the possibility of another round of SSL. This is still could be a possibility for. Thank you.
Well, you have three questions there. So let me answer the first question. Upper middle income country by within the year. Well, that is that is now iffy because to achieve upper middle income country, we're talking about GNI, not GDP per capita. So I am not sure. We will have to do some calculations. If we can still reach $3,980 per capita by this year. So we will have to, maybe somebody can calculate it quickly, Jerry or Leah or Rino there, whether we can achieve that by 2019. So that is the threshold this year. We were hoping that we would even exceed $4,000 per capita. That may not. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going to be the hard number. And then
on the loss in employment, actually, if you look at the details of that employment loss, most of this is actually coming from agriculture. In industry and services, there's actually a gain in employment. Many of that gains is in the construction sector. So again, testament to the to the impact of the bill. Now, with respect to the loss of employment in the agri sector, many of these are actually from the unpaid family workers, and especially those who are age 15 to the younger age group. And the reason for that is really because they are in school, they are studying, they're no longer part of the labor force. And so if you look at the unemployment rate, it has actually been decreasing. But the thing is, the labor force participation rate has also been decreasing. So this is actually also part of the reform process as we go for inclusive growth, because we want everyone to have the same opportunity to move up in terms of economic status in order for them to able to work in the industry and also in the services sector, they will have to, gain more education. And one of the first things done by the Duterte administration is really to, well, first expand the CCT benefits. That's one. And then remember that the conditionality there is that the kids should go to school. And then the second is actually to increase, or actually to free, to give free tuition fee for those who are studying in higher education, those involved in the SUCs, and even to increase subsidies for those who are enrolling in private SUCs if they are in election. So this is the thing that's happening. We do not really, it should not be seen in silo as is. It should be seen with all